me kick off the recording. We are going to start with a review from yesterday. I highly recommend that everyone take notes. Ariel's going to take detailed notes tonight, but the more notes that you take, the better off you are going to be for the second part of class. Repeating that again, the more notes you take right now and the more understanding you squeeze out of this project, the better set up you're going to be for the second part of class. With that said, interrupt me at any time, even if it's a pause, even if you just give me a timeout and say, give me 2 minutes, I need that to sink in, I need to update my notes, that's fine. Give me feedback, right? When I'm explaining this, stop me and either ask a question or just give me say pause, and I will take a break and let you catch up. With that said, before I dive in, I am going to send a copy of the code to everyone, copy of my final code, so at least you have it if you need to reference it yourself or if you aren't caught up from yesterday. So that is coming your way right now.
And for the record, you guys can still DM me or PM me or Slack me or whatever, and I'll tell them to shut up too. That does not bother me at all because I ask questions too on stuff. So just hit me up and I'll stop him.
Okay, day 3 was just posted in Slack. I'm not gonna bother doing a live share on this code yet because I just shared it with you guys, and we're just gonna do an explanation. We're not writing any new code. So we are going to, at least not yet. Okay, so I am going into day 3. I'm opening my portfolio React. That's going to be on the left side of my screen, and the portfolio backend is going to be on the right side of my screen. Looks like I already have it open over there. Okay. So you guys can't see the chat right here, can you? Oh, you can?
No.
No, okay.
Oh, there's no chat.
Okay. I was pretty sure it's like Zoom, like right now I have all of your faces on the screen, but you can't see it. Zoom does some weird things when you're screen sharing to make sure that its own windows aren't screen shared. Okay, so we start at React. We npm, we npx create React app. We get a blank React project. We go in, we clear out our app.js, and we go, okay, we're creating a multiple page project. This portfolio has multiple pages in it, so we need a router. So we npm install React router DOM, and then we get to work. So we say, okay, our home page, we need to go create a home file. We go in there, we create our component, and the component that we're going to focus on in this review is our portfolio, because our portfolio is doing the full stack call. So we create our homepage, or our page where everything is going to get listed out, and we spend the majority of the time in here. So we then look in here and go, all right, we need a backend as well. We need to store our projects in the database. Remember, at any point, you can pause, you can say timeout, you can say, give me a minute, you can say, I'm just writing some notes down, or you can yell at Ariel and she'll pass it on to me to shut up. Okay, so now that we're in our portfolio, we say, hey, we know we need some backend setup done. So before we dive into any of the front end, we switch over to our backend. Our backend, we run npm init, that gets us our package.json. We then install Express, cores, Sequelize, and PG with npm. We have to install all of those because those are the packages that we're going to be requiring in.
All right, so pause for a second, Max.
Only rule, if you pause me, you have to unpause me.
So for the backend, it was Express, cores, PG, Sequelize,
And body parser,
body
if
parser.
you're going to be sending data to your backend.
Okay,
Body.
unpause.
Body Port parser.
Yeah, pause.
Sequelize.
Yep.
Express.
PG, Express, Sequelize, Cores, and Body Parser.
Course. Okay, that's the
Is
last.
body parser one
And
word
these
or
are all
hyphenated?
listed out in your package.json, by the way. So they're all listed here except Body Parser because we end up needing it.
Okay.
And is body parser one word or is it hyphenated?
Hyphenated.
Dash.
And if you guys need to grab that in the beginning for the React app, that's in, I believe, week 18 in the notes that are in there. There may be a few in week 15 as well, just to install the packages, but all of that's in week 18 files. So I'm not adding that tonight, but it is in there if you need it.
Ariel, can you just drop a link to that in tonight's outline?
For the body parser and all that?
Yeah, for whatever the backend setup instructions are.
Yeah, I'll grab it right now.
Cool, thank you.
I have two questions. First
Yep.
question, when you mentioned portfolio at the beginning, you said portfolio full stack, and then it was a word you used after. I missed that word. You remember what you said?
I unfortunately do not. Full stack portfolio 2-page project.
Right, but what does, you said portfolio, the portfolio page does what?
The portfolio page lists out the different things in the database.
Okay, lists all. Okay, and then my second question is, can you explain again? Okay, because we didn't use body parser on portfolio, but we most likely need body parser like on our capstone. So can you give a brief synopsis of why we need body parser?
I sure can. Great question. So in order to answer that, I'm going to switch back to my blog front end code where we do use body parser. So when we send a new post to our database, right, when we want to create a new one, we do a fetch to the post endpoint. And whenever we use a method type other than get, in this case post, we are able to include a body of the request. We're basically saying, hey, we're requesting this thing, but the body of the request is what contains the data. However, the internet is really bad at sending any kind of data type other than a string. The internet isn't really set up to send key value pairs or arrays or any of that. So what we need to do is on our front end, we convert that data into a string. So what we want to do is we want to send this object to the back end that has our title and our content in it. But in order to send an object or an array or anything other than a string, we need to convert that data into a string. The format that we use to do that is JavaScript object notation, or JSON. JSON, even though it has object in the name of it, is actually a string. So all we're doing is we're converting that object into a string using JSON. The problem is we don't want it to be a string on the back end. We want to convert it back to an object. So what we do is we stringify it on the front end, and then we tell our back end, and then we tell our back end in the headers of the request, heads up, the content type that I'm sending in the body is JSON. This is all before body parser at all. This is just what gets sent on the front end. Then when we switch over to the back end, we tell the back end, hey, go pull body parser in from NPM. Once you do, tell Express, tell our server to use body parser and tell it some JSON is coming in. So whenever the backend sees that the content type is application JSON, it automatically parses that JSON string for us back into an object and stores it in our rec.body.
Pause. application JSON string takes the string and it turns it back into an object. And then what's the last part that you said?
Stores it in rec.body.
Words. Is that the rec res? So that is that connected to rec res or rec.body? Okay. My bad notes.
And Zach actually asked a good question during a one-on-one that I wanted to share here with all of you. Remember, rec stands for request. That has all of the data coming into the backend. So when we say rec.body, because it's part of the rec, we know that it's coming in from the front end. Whenever we see res, that is the response to the request from the front end. So whenever we see a res, that means that it's going in the response back to the front end. So think about the request as anything incoming and the response as anything going back to the front end from the back end.
I had a question,
Yep, go ahead.
small question. It's on the front end. So can you just explain to me the link part again? So we put the link there because why at the top, all the way at the top?
We put the link there because the link is what we use instead of an A tag whenever we want to route to a different page.
So, and it's from React Router DOM. So is it just
Correct.
syntax? Pulling.
So what?
So is it just syntax or? I know what the link is there for, but I wasn't sure like why or.
Well, the link is here because we use a link somewhere in our page. Here we link back to the admin home. So whenever we use a non-native HTML element or component, right, this H1, we don't need to import an H1 because that's regular HTML. But when we use this link, it's like, whoa, capital letter in your component name. I don't know where that comes from. What is a link? So in order to use this link here, we need to import it from up here.
And it's the same for the front end.
This is the front end.
Oh, and then maybe I was talking about the back end. Then.
This is the back end.
Can you scroll all the way to the top? I just want to look see it. It was just like linked by itself, but that's why I was asking. But I understand that too.
Okay.
So today when I was asking you about link, that's what that was. So all of that connect. So link to, you're linking to back to Beekeeper to that section in the database.
Not quite. You're skipping a couple steps there, but we're going to hit that in our review.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Okay.
So we initialized our project with npm init-y. We then go in and we create, well, then we install all of the packages we know we're going to need: Express, Cores, PG, Sequelize, Body Parser. Then we create our file called server.js. And the final setup step that we do is we go into package.json and we add a new line for start. And that new line for start is saying, hey, use nodemon instead of node itself to start up server.js. Now we've got our everything installed that we need. So we use all of this code up at the top to set up Express, to create a new server, to use cores because an API should allow cross-origin requests. And we tell Express to use our cores that we get created up at the top. Then we put in our basic route at the root of the website, of the root of the API. And we say when someone goes and loads localhost, it should send back hello world. We don't actually need this, but this is a way to test to make sure our API is working. Then we go down to our server.listen and we say, hey, the server needs to be listening for requests. This is what makes our server run in the background. Now we give it a port number. So we use 3001 because the front end is on 3000, and we console log out a server running. Okay, now our front end is set up. It doesn't have routes or components or any of that yet, but we've got a basic skeleton for our front end. We've got a basic skeleton for our back end. But our back end, we know, is going to need to connect to the database. So we create a db.js folder. I'm sorry, we create a DB folder, and inside of it, we create db.js. Then we pause here and we go over to Beekeeper. We connect into the database and we say create database and whatever our project name is going to be, because we need to connect to the database that we're going to say, or you need to create the database that we're going to be saving data into. Now we switch back to our code and we set up Sequelize. So we pull in Sequelize from NPM. We say, hey, here are the details of how you're going to connect to the server. We create this connect to DB function. We authenticate with the server and say it's connected, and we sync with the database. The sync with the database is going to take any models that we have in our backend code and create those tables if they don't exist in our database for us. Then we call connect to DB and export everything out. We export it out here so that in our server.js, we can require it in right here. So this DB right here is the same DB from right here. That's the same DB that's getting synced and authenticated to, which is getting connected here, which is coming in from our Sequelize.
Pause. What when you sync, if the database has already been created from the first sync, and then your model, you add a property or add a column, does that get added to the model in the database when it syncs the next time?
No, it does not. It will only create new tables for you. It will not modify existing tables. So if you need to remove or add a column or change a column data type, you have two options. You can either put force true in here, and if you do that, it's going to delete the table for you and recreate the table with the updated model. That can be dangerous, though, because you would lose all of the data that is inside of the table. So the other option is that you can update the model itself and then go into Beekeeper and run an alter table command and add the column yourself. Once you do that, as long as the data type in the column in the database matches the data type that you added to the model, those two will be back in sync.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we've connected and we've got a skeleton for our backend setup. We don't have any endpoints other than this server.get, but we've got a basic database file set up. We've got backend running, and we've got our front end. So now what we do is we switch over to our front end code, which of course I didn't leave open. And in our front end code, we say, hey, we would like a page. Nope, this is blog. We would like a page to show all of our different projects. So, oh, come on, Max. I just opened a new window. So we say, okay, on our page, we want to show a list of all the projects, maybe not all of the information about the projects, but we would like a page that they can see a little bit about the project, click on it, and go to another page to see all the details about the project. Now, keep in mind here that a project is just interchangeable, right? For Christy, it would be a favorite thing. For Doug, it might be an item in the grocery store, right? This is any time that you have a list of a lot of things you would like to show. Oftentimes, you will show the list of things, and then you can click on it to get more details. That's exactly what we're doing in our projects. So what we do is we say, hey, we need to go get that data from the database, and we want to do that when the component first loads. So whenever we do something when the component first loads, we import use effect and we say, hey, use effect, and we put this empty array down at that bottom. That empty array is saying only run when the component first shows up. Then we say, okay, we need to go get that data from the database. So we create an async function called getProjects. We create getProjects here. We then go in and we fetch the data from projects. Okay, well, if we go do that from projects, we need to make sure we've got an endpoint for those projects. So none of this code runs yet. What we do is we switch over to server.js and we create a server.get. The front end defaults to a get request as the method. And we say projects. This projects lines up with this projects right here. So we say, okay, how do we get the projects? We want a res.send. We want to send back to the front end an object with all of the projects. And the way we get those projects is we wait for the project model to find them. Well, we can't use the project model until we create that model. So we go over to our files, we open the project, and we create a new model. We pull in data types from Sequelize. We create our const, we get access to the DB, and we tell the database to define a new model called project, and we tell it all of the data that is in the project table. So once we do that, we export the project, but we still need to wire up our project to the database. We created this file, but now we need to use it. So we go to our db.js, we require in the project, we give it access to the database that we set up here, and then we export out the project at the bottom. Once we export out the project, now we can use it. So we go to server.js, we pull the project in from the database file, and now because we have required it or imported it, we can use it. So we go back to our projects endpoint that we were trying to set up, and we say, project, go find all the projects in the database and put that in the object called projects and send it back to the front end. Okay, any questions on that before we keep going? Okay, so we switch back to the front end. Now our response here is what this response is here. Express is sending the data back in the response, and we get access to the response here. So we get the JSON, we parse the JSON, because just like the internet isn't good about sending objects, it's also not good about sending objects back. So we use JSON in both directions. And here we parse out the JSON, we take the string, the response string, get the JSON out of it and set it and get it in our data. Now our data.projects, this projects is lining up with this projects right here. So we come over here and we go, okay, now what do we want to do with the data? In React, whenever we have data that we would like to use to show up on the screen, we need to use state, because whenever we set in state, that is React's way of knowing, hey, this data is supposed to show up on the front end. So we come up here and we import our state, our use state from React. We say use state and we put an empty array in here because we're saying, hey, the projects is going to be, we're going to have multiple projects, so it's got to be an array. And use state gives us access to the projects themselves and to set the projects to update the state. Now we come down back to our request, we get our data.projects and we set it into the state. Okay, state is great and all, but we still need to show it into our HTML. So we come down here and we say, hey, map over all of the projects. Why are we mapping over it? Because it's an array. there are multiple projects in that we would like to show. So in order to show all of them, we need to loop over each one of them and say what each one is supposed to look like. So we map over our projects. That gives us access to each individual project. Then we return whatever HTML we would like to show up for each one of those projects. But because we're looping over each individual one, because we have access to the individual project, we can use any of the data that is flowing through our state, which is flowing through our set state, which is coming from our data in the response JSON from our projects that goes all the way back to the back end that shows that goes to the model that comes from the database, and that is what gets all the way back to Beekeeper. Okay, we've done all of that. So, any questions there?
Did you say, now I understand the purpose of ERD a little bit better, but did you say we were going over that today too?
Maybe. Let's see how long part 2 takes.
Okay,
Can you tell me what ERD is again? I forgot.
Entity relationship diagram. That is the diagram we use to figure out what our models will look like.
Thank you.
what we want to call from the, basically what we want to call like the columns in our database that we want to call to show up. So like project summary, project name, those things, project ID, those are those entities.
Every table is an entity.
Oh, every table.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Almost to the endpoint. So now that we've set into the state, we're looping over it. We're saying, hey, each one of these is going to show up the data. So when we see project.name here, we know that through that whole flow, it is actually lining up with this name in the database. So this goes all the way up to Beekeeper. So we just did all of that work to make it so the name in the table here is going to show up in our HTML here. Okay, we did all of that work. Now we've got one more requirement. We want to make it so that when we click on Learn More, it takes us to a details page that has all of the information on it. But in order to do that, we don't want to create a page for each project. We want to create one page that's reusable across all the projects. So we take our, in order to make that reusable page, we need to do some routing. But the page needs to know what project to show the information about. So we create a link to our project and we include the project ID from the database. We need to tell our project page what project it should be displaying. So we drop in our project ID, again, that's flowing through our map, that's flowing through the state, that's flowing through the API call, that's flowing through the model. So now that we've got this link here, we need to go create that page. So we create a new page called project.js. We make it just an empty component to start. We return out a div, but now we need to tell the router that this page exists.
Pause. Can you just say that part? We create a new page, project.js, and what else?
We need to tell the router that the page exists.
Okay, thank you.
So we go to our app.js, and just like we created a route for our homepage, we're going to create a route for our project page. But we're going to put this colon ID in it so it knows that the word ID isn't actually part of the route. It knows that a number is going to be there as a parameter. So now that we've done that, we go back to our project page and we say, okay, we need to go get the details from the database for this project. But we only want to get that one specific project that we care about. So we need to use params from the React router to get the ID out from the URL. So the use params here is what's getting us access to the ID right here, which is flowing through the link right here. So it goes from the link to the router to the project page, and the project page, we pull that out from use params. Now that we've got the ID and the parameters, we can use an effect. Again, we use an effect because we only want this to run when the page first loads, and we go say, get the project details. Well, in order to get just a single project from the backend, we need a new endpoint. So we switch back over to our backend, we open server.js, we say server get, and we use the same syntax here to tell the route, hey, an ID is getting passed in as a parameter. Now we do a very similar res.send, but we're only sending back a single project. And the way we do that is we wait for the database model to find the primary key, at which point we use the rec.params.id. So we are basically saying, hey, database, go back into the database, find that specific ID, and send it back to the front end. Now we go back to the front end, and because there's data that we're getting here that we want to show up to the end user, we need to store that in the state. So we use state, we import, we set up our state with project and set project, and we take the data from the back end and set it into the state. Once we do all of that work, we come down here and we added in a little loading section. We say, hey, if you don't have the project yet, if the API call to the database isn't done yet, just return a screen that says loading. But once the project gets set in, we're going to come down to this return, and now we don't need a map. Why don't we need a map? Because we're not going over multiple projects. We're just showing one project's worth of information. So we have our project set up, and what we do is down here, we can just dive right in to using detail about the project, like the project summary and the project objectives, which are, again, coming from our project model here.
Max,
Yes.
go back over params again, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Params we use for the first time in portfolio. So in the portfolio, we need to tell the project page what project it cares about. We need to tell the project page, because this is generic. Every project has objectives and future improvements. So we need to tell this project page, hey, the project that you want to display is project ID number 2. So what we do is in portfolio, we link the learn more button to whatever project ID we're currently looping over. So it says project.name. Okay, this time in the list of projects, this says weather. And the project summary is awesome weather app or whatever's in the database. But this project ID is what is telling the project page which project it should be displaying. So we put in the link the ID of the project itself. Then in our app.js, we tell the route for the project page, hey, you're going to get an ID. So the word ID isn't actually going to show up in the URL. The actual number of the project is. Then in our actual project page, we need to get access to that ID again. So we go to the React Router DOM, we use params, and we get access to the params that are in the route. Now that we actually have access to the param, we are able to use that params.id to tell the database, hey, this is the project number that I would like to go get.
I have a question, quick question.
Mhm.
So as in params, that means like the things that we would put into Beekeeper, parameters of that.
No, the parameters are like the data in the route.
Okay, got it.
So if we look at all of this running, let me just start this up. The params may make more sense. So if we look at our weather app and we click on the Learn More button, look at the tiny little URL that shows up at the very bottom of my screen. It says localhost project 2. And if we hover over this one, it says 4. So if we actually click this Learn More button, see how this 2 is in the URL? And if we go back and we click on this one, 4 is in the URL. That 2 or 4 is the parameter. And so what's happening is that you can see in my database, weather is ID number 2, Netflix is number 4. Those aren't sequential because I deleted a row at some point. So whatever number is in the URL up here, whatever ID is up there, is what is telling the project page which project it should actually be going out and getting from the database. So here, if we change that number to 2 and hit enter, we get weather. And if we change it back to 4, we're going to get Netflix. And if we change it to 3, we're going to get just the loading screen, because if we look in the database, there is no ID 3. Okay, with all of that said, is there anything that you need me to re-review?
I just know that my code doesn't look like that, because I just got a black screen. I had some of that, but then I had those numbers, but then I got a black screen, so.
Something's missing somewhere. So you are all going to be thrilled with what we're doing for the rest of class. You guys all individually, without any help, are going to create, well, I shouldn't say without any help. I'm going to be here the rest of class. I'm going to be here answering questions. You are going to create a front end and a back end that has a list page that shows a list of everything in the database. And when you click on the link, it is going to go to a details page that shows more information about what you clicked on.
So is that going to be?
Can you repeat? I'm sorry.
Yep, and I'll type this into the chat as well. You are going to create a React front end and back end using SQLize. you should have a list homepage that shows all the items in the database that you can click on a single item to get more information about what item you clicked on. So pick your item, whether it's grocery store items, whether it's favorite things, whether it's Marvel characters, whether it's CIC teachers and TAs, whether it's whatever you would like. You're going to pick that item. You're going to create your front end. You're going to load up the database with those items and make the items show up on the homepage. And then when you click on one of those items, it's going to take you to a details page where it's going to show you more information about that item. So your first step, get your front end created and your back end created. Don't be afraid to use code that we reference that we've already done, whether it's portfolio, whether it's blog, whatever is helpful for you, whether it's the invoices app, you can go all the way back to there. But you want to create your front end, you want to create your back end, you want to take this step by step, because this is something that when you get onto the job is a very fair thing to ask. And it's so easy to go, oh my God, how do I do all of this? So take a step back, remember that you've got your reference code, and remember that I am here, I'm not going anywhere. So if you guys have questions or get stuck anywhere, just come off mute and let me know.
NPM and all the extra ones, that's only backend.
npm init-y is backend, npx create-react-app, and then the name is the front end.
Oh yeah, no, I did all that. I was just asking if I would need Express and all the extras on my front end as well. Okay.
No, just backend.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, guys, I'm still grabbing those ones from, I believe it was week 18, but day 3 notes seem to be missing. So I'm still grabbing them and adding them as resources into that file. But if you go through, you can see most of the steps we took to get it set up with parser and Sequelize and all of that. You just have to go through the notes, but they shouldn't hurt you at any point in this game. You guys, if you go over yesterday's notes, they're pretty vague, but it does tell you exactly what we went over tonight as well.
Did you drop the link in Zoom? Or you did already? My bad.
Remember, if you get stuck at any step, feel free to share your screen.
Okay. So I had made the mistake of doing NPM instead of NPX. So can you just help me in my terminal?
Yep, just delete the folder if it created a new folder and then run npx instead.
Yeah, I created a folder, but I have my node modules in a separate folder and then package JSON and just files. It's supposed to be like that? No, probably, yeah.
Just delete whatever it created and use the correct command instead.
Okay.
Max.
Yep, go ahead.
All right, so I'm on this. You should have a list homepage that shows all the items in the database that you can click on a single item to get more information about.
Mhm.
Explain that again.
Okay, so think about what we've done already. If you think about the blog, when you go to the blog homepage, it lists out all of the blog posts, right? And if you click on one of them, you can see the whole blog post. Or if you're on your portfolio, it's got the names of all the projects. And when you click on one of the projects, it goes to a page that shows you more information about the project. That's what you need to create. So you need to pick something that there are multiple of. You could pick cars, right? And list out all of the cars that you've had in your lifetime. And when you click on one of the car names, it's going to take you to a page that's going to show you more details about the car, the year, the manufacturer, your favorite thing about it.
Okay.
So just when you think about this, that sounds like a huge project, but think about all the steps we just reviewed, because you're going to go through each one of those steps, and also keep in mind that you've got the portfolio code, both the front end and the back end, that is accomplishing that same feature already. So it's very easy to get overwhelmed by it, but start at the basics. I need a React front end. I need a React back end. Okay, Express back end. Okay, now in my React, I need routes and I need the homepage to show up. Okay, now in my back end, I need Express and Sequelize and cores. Okay, now I need a model to store that data in. Okay, now I need that data to show up on the front end. Okay, now when I click on it, I need it to do something. Okay, that's going to be a route that takes me to a details page. Now I need an endpoint to go get those details for me. That's it. That's the whole thing. But break it down, very small steps. Create React app first, create your backend second, go through just the setup steps of those.
I have those. I'm talking about where it says I have the front end and the back end. I guess it says shows all the items in the database.
Yep, you have to pick what you want to list out. So we did projects for the portfolio. You can pick whatever you want. This is an individual project.
Okay.
So you're gonna go create a model and name that model after whatever you would like to store in your database and show up in the front end.
When you say create a model, create,
Create a model, create the file. Our model was called projects. But you have to pick whatever you would like. Have to use a little imagination.
okay.
Max, Zach just wants to check again how you go up in the directory and for terminal.
CD space ... Enter.
Hey Max, when I'm trying to make, app, well, not a app, a folder, is it MKIRD?
MKDIR.
DIR. Thank you.
Make directory.
Thank you.
And that's all together.
Yeah, no space in that. Thank you, Christy.
Um,
Okay, weird random question, but let me just ask anyways. In terms of the the, the database, should we go through Beekeeper and just create our
So create the model in Sequelize. And then once it's created in Sequelize, you should see the table in Beekeeper. And then in Beekeeper, you can just add rows of whatever your app is storing.
So in Sequelize, does it has to be like a lot of different data points, or just like maybe 3, like
3 or 4, that's fine.
awesome. All right, good.
Probably like a name and whatever else relates to it. So if you're doing a car, you could do manufacturer, year, description. That would be enough.
Makes perfect sense. Thank you.
Yeah, guys, just so you guys know, like, it's not so much about how the code works or getting the code to work as much as you understand what you're doing. So if you have questions on why are we doing this? Why are we not doing it this way? Why does this matter? Ask those now, because it's at the end of the marathon here. You can get your code to work with Stack Overflow. That's not an issue. The issue is making sure you understand why we're doing it. You can't memorize it, but if you understand why, it's going to make your job a hell of a lot easier in the end.
Anyone feels stuck or wants to go into a breakout room, I'm also happy to do that. Just shoot me a message.
And I know I ask this question a million times all the time, but if it's not lighting up, it's because we're not using it yet.
Correct. And there are some things that won't light up like rec because sometimes we don't care about what's in the request. We just need to send a response. Or sometimes we import things knowing that we'll use them in the future.
Okay, thank you.
But we normally don't write code from the top down, right? We write code step by step. So we're saying, okay, we need to go get the projects, right? That endpoint is going to go smack dab in the middle of our code, even though we have projects set up elsewhere.
Hey, Max,
Yep, go ahead.
when you go over cores, what is the exact reasoning for going over cores tonight?
So CORS is cross-origin requests, right? It's actually cross-origin resource sharing. The problem is that the browser sees something on a different port as a different website. And so basically our browser and server work together to say, hey, anything coming from 3000 is not the same website as 3001. So we are going to block the CORS request. The cross-origin request from 3000 is crossing over to 3001. It shouldn't do that. So what we do on our server for CORS is we say, no, this is an API. Other websites are allowed to access data on this API. So CORS is saying, hey, Express, let requests from 3000 or really anywhere come in. We are allowing things from other cross websites to access this API. So
Okay, thank you.
if you don't use CORS in your Express code and you make the fetch in the console in your front end, you'll notice it says cross-origin resource sharing blocked. And that's because we haven't told Express, hey, don't enforce CORS here, don't block requests from other origins or cross origins.
Okay, I got one more.
Go for it.
Ready? Okay. So it's based off my notes from last night because I don't know my own notes.
Yep.
So when you store the data in state to show up that it's been updated, it tracks and returns the data automatically when it's called. You're using it for looping over map. Can you go into that a little bit more? Like, I know you've explained a couple times, but maybe a way to grasp it, explain like I'm 5 kind of version. Is there a way to do
so
that?
we've got the data in the database, but we need a way to show it. The problem is with regular data, when we update the regular data, React doesn't know, hey, go back to my return method and update it so that the data shows up inside of it. So state is kind of the intermediary between our API call and the HTML itself. So what we do is we take the data from the API call and shove it into state using set. Once it's in state, the set method now knows, hey, go back to my HTML and re-return the HTML using all of the data that is now in state. So state is the thing that is holding our data in React, a copy of the data that came from the backend, but because we set it into state, it knows to show that data in our HTML.
Is there a particular reason we're using it as far as state goes?
So if we don't use state, there's no way that React knows to show our data in the HTML.
Okay, and that's different from parse, obviously, right?
Yes, parsing happens before we set the data into state. We need to convert the string back into an object, which is what parsing is. But parsing is the step before setting it into state. Doug, go ahead.
In the React setup, we do npm install React router DOM. What other steps, once we've made the React app with npx create React app, what else do we need to do in the React terminal?
That should be it. Other than npm install react-router-dom, that should be the only package that we need to install.
Okay, and then it's just a matter of making components.
Correct. npm run start in the terminal to get React fired up, go to your app.js and start importing browser router and routes and all of that good stuff, and then making the components.
Thank you.
Yep.
I have a question.
Go for it.
I named my database and my table the same name. Is that going to cause a conflict or just be confusing?
No conflict, shouldn't be that confusing.
True. All right.
The only time we use our database name is in db.js in the connection string. Outside of that, it shouldn't cause any confusion.
Right. Good point. All
There
right.
are some things that you can't call your database. Putting a space in your database name is never a good idea. And there are a couple table names that you can't use. Like creating a table called select would be a very bad idea, or delete. But in general, it doesn't really matter what you call it.
Okay. Thank you. And I will
I have a
continue
question.
on.
I have a question,
Go
but
ahead,
don't.
Nicole.
Okay, so all right, so I finally got my front end all set, but now I'm moving on to my back end. That's a React app too. Should I make additional React app, or is it different, made differently? Or do
Wait,
I
ask your question again.
am I creating it the same way, like create a React app, or am I just making a blank folder and then doing
What are you trying to create?
my back end?
Your backend does not use React.
Okay, so it's just a blank, and then all the other commands will give me that package.json.
npm init-y. You're going to make a folder first. You're going to cd into it. You're going to npm init-y. You're going to npm install express on all of those. Then you're going to start a server.js file, a new blank file, and then start writing in it from there.
Okay, thank you.
anyone feels like they're struggling to the point where they aren't making any forward progress, either let me know here and maybe you'll help another student get unstuck, or just request that we go into a breakout room.
Hey, Max,
Yeah, go ahead.
I know your favorite student here. So when we did the project tables under entities yesterday, you added a new one. Is that something you can show again? Just because I didn't go through it a lot in my notes, so there's some confusion. I have open project table under entities, created a table, added the now with parentheses after.
Okay, so
Created that and updated it.
hold up there. We didn't create a new table in Beekeeper. We created a model and created a new row in Beekeeper.
Okay, I'll update my notes. A model and a row, you said?
Yeah, so what we did is in our give me 1 second.
If you could, that would be seriously appreciated. So I can update my notes as well, please.
Okay, so I'm going to just use the portfolio backend, but I'm going to create a new model, and I'm going to call it car.js. Put it in the database. And I want to reference all of my project code in my car. So I'm going to say const data types, requires equalize, const car gets the DB and returns out a definition of a car model that has an ID. Let's say it also has a type or a make, which is going to be a data type .string, a model, which is also a data type .string. Let's say a year, which is going to be a data type .integer, and that should get us started. So I export out my car. This should all look very familiar. I'm modeling it right after my project file. Now in my DB, I go to my DB file, and just like my project, I need to import my car by requiring it. And then I pass it my database and export it as well, so I can use it in other files in my app. So now that I've done all of that, when I go to Beekeeper and I refresh my entities over here, you're going to see my cars table has showed up. So if I double click on that, there's no data in here. In order to add data, I can use this little plus icon down at the bottom. And when I click on that, it has make, model, all of that stuff. So what I'm going to do is start loading in this data. So the ID is going to get auto-generated for me. The make, let's say, is a Nissan Pathfinder. The year is a 2001. And now for the created at, I have to put in some timestamp here. If I just hit apply, it will say null value in column created at cars violates not null constraint. In other words, created at and updated at cannot be empty. So in order to get around that, I'm going to put the words now and parentheses at the end. When I hit apply now, it will automatically drop in the timestamps for me and have that data into my database. That help?
Yep, one follow-up question.
Yep.
So when you have to do that, like yesterday was kind of a one-off, or is that every time we're trying to reconnect like that?
Whenever you have a new table that you need to store in the database, you're going to need to do that.
Okay, but that's not typical for when, like, say we have the table in there and just to reconnect it. It's only to add a new table.
When we create a new model, it will automatically create the table for us.
Yes,
we
I'm sorry,
add-
model. I apologize. That one was on me.
When we add rows to that table, we're just loading in some dummy data. Normally, the data that gets added into your database is going to come in from like a user submitting a form, right? So like, oh, I want to create a new account. They're going to type in their username and their password and hit save, and then that is what would insert it into the database. However, for this project in particular, we're just inserting our own data without having to build out a whole interface to add to it. So that's why we're using the add button in Beekeeper to add rows in.
Okay, next question, not related, still somewhat related.
Okay.
When you do the loading sequence, why are we using the way we have it yesterday and not an if else?
Because an if statement a return statement automatically ends any code from running behind it. So we don't need to put this in an else, because if this is true, when it hits the return, it won't run any code down here, because once the return is hit, it won't run any code after it. However, if you wanted to put this in an else and put this whole return in here,
There's no screen share.
And
And
so
then
if-
Nicole, I'm done with questions, so you can have the next one. Sorry.
if you wanted to, you could put all this return code in an else, but it's just another level of indentation over and doesn't affect how the computer runs the code at all. Because if this is true, when it hits the return, it wouldn't run anything after it. So that's why we don't put it in an else and we just leave it out here, because this return will effectively prevent any of this running, because the project is not done loading.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Nicole, go ahead.
Can you just show what you did with the cars again? I just want to use that as reference.
So we created a new file called car.js. We defined the model based off of the model that we had for our project. We then go to db.js and require the car in. Then we export it out. And after we do all of that work, when we go to Beekeeper, it will show up here. The project table will show up here. Then you can hit the plus button and add the data in.
Okay, thank you.
Stephanie, go ahead.
I'm definitely struggling, but I'm seeing something that I've never seen when we set up VS Code.
Okay, go ahead, share your screen.
I don't know what this is.
I have no idea what that is. I would just hit close and ignore it. Did you like accidentally open like packagelock.json or something like that?
I think after I opened this, I did npm I down here again.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about that. The only thing I will note is that it looks like you've got a front end folder and then a front end folder inside of that front end folder, and that might cause you problems.
Huh. Okay.
So you might want to close out of your front end in VS Code and then just move the inner front end folder like out so that you don't have a front end in a front end. So if you
Weird, okay. Oh, wait, what's? Okay,
rename, go back and rename front end to like front end -2. And then copy it. And go up. And paste it. And that's going to take a second because it has your node modules in it. Oh, only about 10 seconds, apparently. Now you can delete your front end and rename that to regular front end and then reopen that in VS Code. I don't know if that caused the problem, but it could have. And you should be good to go.
okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Max, what's the name of the convention for like a database? So if I'm doing stores, should the name of the database be stores and then the table store?
Yeah, that's fine.
Not that it matters.
Normally databases are named after the project, but this is like such a small little project that it kind of makes it hard to name the database. So you could name the database like list project if you wanted to. And then inside of that project, you would have the table called stores. But I think Doug asked that same question of, is it going to be confusing if I call the database and the table the same thing? And the database doesn't really care.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, normally database names are easier to come up with for like, oh, we're doing the portfolio and the portfolio has projects in it. But in this one, because it's a smaller project, you can kind of call it anything. So one thing that I'll say is while you guys are working, I have worked with junior developers for years and years. And one thing junior developers struggle the most with is knowing when to ask for help. And that is often out of fear of showing where they are and thinking, oh my God, someone's going to be worried that I'm dumb or I don't know this concept. And because of that, I just need to work harder on it. That's one thing that we try and beat out of junior devs, because as a junior dev, we don't expect you to be able to do something from start to finish, right? We expect you to need to ask for help. I spend probably at least an hour, if not 2 hours a day, working with junior developers on my team, helping them get over the finish line and practicing using concepts. So I don't want you to feel that if you're lost, you can't ask for help. This is definitely a project where it's a big thing to pull off. And if you need help or if you feel lost, whenever you feel like you are not making any forward progress, that's when you ask for help. And if you don't want to do it in a group setting, that's fine. I'm happy to jump into a breakout room. But as a junior dev, it is important to know when to ask for help. With that said, Zach, go ahead. Oh, sorry, Wayne and then Zach. Wayne, what's going on? Okay, go to, you're on mute, by the way, but that's fine if you want to stay on it. You're trying to connect to a database called test. Did you create that test database in Beekeeper?
No.
Okay, so you're going to want to go to Beekeeper, open up a new tab. And just write create database test.
And stop this. Awesome. Thank you.
Good work. So when I mentioned, this is not due at the end of class, but this is what we'll be working on until the end of class, and it will be due by Sunday.
Okay, one more thing. So I've already created my database, I guess. my
Yep.
backend. I wanted to kind of get that out of the way first. So now I'll get back to you in a second. Never mind.
Larry, go ahead.
To create a table is just create table and then the table name, right?
No, and when you create the table, you also want to give it the column names and column types.
Okay.
But if you've created your model, it should automatically create the table for you.
Okay, thank you.
Zach, go ahead.
So, in app.js, this is like the home page, and that loads from our home.js.
Mm-hmm.
And then, route path. I don't remember if we had other routes initially, but this project ID is coming from the project.js.
Yes.
And then these are just different parts of that page. It's just loading them based on the ID, and it's loading
Correct.
one for each ID.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. I would remind everyone taking a break is important. If you are going through, that's completely fine. I'm going to take a break now and I'll be back at 7:30.
Punching in my head. But so I'm doing my server.js and we need the server.project. Well, like not project, but like I'm doing shoes, server.shoes. And we need that because it can be multiple. We got the server, it will be shoes.id because I did use that in my database for the one single one. And then server.listen is for which one to listen for the rec.res to come back, like listen for the rec
To come in.
and
Yes.
show the res of the server running.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
The server.listen is telling the server to run in the background and listen on 3001 for those requests coming in.
Okay, so can you just explain to me the first server again? And that's just saying to go
Yeah.
to that first path, which is the localhost.
Share your screen with me just so I can draw on it as we're explaining it.
Oh, 1 second. Yeah, I'm over here.
Okay, so all of this is set up here, right? So you're saying pull express in from npm. Then we're saying, hey, express, go create a new server. And the server is what we're going to do all of the work on.
Okay.
Then we pull cores in from npm. Then we tell the server to use the cores that we just pulled in from right here.
Mhm.
Then we say, hey, go to the database, go get the database set up. The only problem here is that this should be to DB, not to shoes.
Oh, okay.
So it should look like that over there.
Okay.
Because that DB file is kind of like the main file that all the other models pull into and use.
Oh.
Okay, and then the server.get here is saying, hey, when a request comes in to the root of the server, right? When we go to localhost 3001, you have it wrong down here. That should be 3001.
That's my other question. Why isn't it 3,000?
Because our front end is on 3000.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
So we get a request that comes in and we respond to that request by sending back hello world. So we don't actually use this, but we put it in just in case someone goes to like our API without a /shoes or /projects or whatever. And then this is what actually gets the server running. So that's what makes it listen in the background on the port 3001. So what you're going to do is you're going to add the 2 endpoints over here. Instead of projects, you're going to say shoes. And then here you're going to say /shoe instead of /shoes. And that is what goes to the database and uses our model coming in from the database file to find everything and send it back in the response to the front end.
So when I do shoe, that the database will automatically know that it's just one of that. Because I didn't do.
The database knows we're either asking for all of them or we're asking for one of them by the primary key.
Okay. And I just want to show you why you're here.
Yeah.
That's just to make sure that this is right.
Beautiful. Just watch your spelling. It's an integer, not an integer.
N-T-E-R-G-E-G. I don't know. Spell it. Can you spell it for me? please?
integer, I think. Yeah. There you go.
All right.
So
Thank you.
just the R up in the ID there is wrong.
Oh, okay.
integer. There you go. And then
Thank
don't
you.
forget go to your package.json for me. You want to add a script in here for start, and then in your terminal, you can do an npm run start. But you may want to check my package.json.
And copy it from there.
Yeah. And don't forget the comma at the end when you paste it. There you go. And now you can npm run start, and that should get you off and running.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. Good work so far.
Thank you.
Larry, go ahead.
All right, so I got I'm not all the way done with my server stuff yet, but I just wanted to make sure it was running. Got my database connecting. So now I have like about 4 or 5 stores with
Okay.
with a lot of information, and I just want to when I go to put them in the database, I want to loop through them.
Yep.
So I'm trying to store it in this variable, but I get a bunch of red stuff way down here. It was JSON to begin with.
Okay, let me remote control. So that,
Ended early somehow. Okay, so probably go down to the end.
is it as simple as just needing like a closing? No, of course not. Let's, oh, did that?
Looks like it broke the rest. No,
Okay, so hold on. This one closes the store. This one is closing.
let me show you how it looks in the browser.
Oh, this one is closing the top one and probably shouldn't be.
Let me show you how
Because-
it looks in the browser.
Sure.
Okay, let's see. Like, so once, I need items over that. Okay, probably.
So here, let's do this instead. I'm gonna just copy.
There's a whole bunch of them. That's why I only use like 5.
That might be 4, but if we start there.
Back.
Yeah. Let's try this instead. I'm just gonna delete these. And say const stores is a new array and then paste that in. And then it looks like that pulled in right.
Okay, thank you.
So what, I'm just gonna do one extra step for you because I don't think we've covered this. If you do a module dot exports and do the stores in your server.js, you'll actually be able to say const stores equals require stores. Oops.
I think I have store. Okay, no, okay.
And then console.log stores, and that object should actually come out.
Okay.
Oh, I missed the, hold on, I missed the closing quote. There you go. That
Thank you.
should work.
All right, thank you.
Uh-huh.
And let's fuck this up now.
Christy, go ahead.
App crash required.
Oh, hold on, before you do. Larry, do you need help?
It said it crashed, but I'm trying to see what the error was. Cannot find dot stores.
Is stores in a different directory level than the server.js? Do you need like
Called stores. It was called notes.js.
Oh, there you go. Try and change it to notes in the require.
I'll just rename it to stores. All
That
right.
works too.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Okay, sorry, Christy, go ahead.
So I created my table, but I'm not. This is the same thing as before. Like I don't see the Oh, I don't. Let me share my screen. So I created this table, and
Read what that command says.
which command?
No, the command that you typed in right here.
Create database.
So a database and a table are not the same thing. You created the database called Avengers.
Right, but then the way that you showed us to add so that we could add. So I was
So
supposed
now
put
you
the
need to,
table?
did you make your model to create the table?
Yes.
Okay, so Avenger, all of that looks good. You don't want this line. You can pull out line 2. That's going to cause some problems. And now let's look at your db.js. And scroll up. Okay, change project to Avenger there.
Oh,
And then scroll up in your terminal. Let's see what the error message is.
how about the no, wait, no, man.
Address in use is, scroll down. That's an old error. Keep going, keep going. Error address in use. So you've got another server running on 3001 somewhere.
So I gotta, okay, so I have to close that out and then that will make. But what I guess my question was when we get to here,
The
I'm
table doesn't exist there because your server isn't started yet.
okay,
Your
okay.
backend hasn't run the code to tell Beekeeper about the Avengers model yet.
So I need to close this one.
Well, that one's your front end, so that one won't be causing the problem. There's something else that's
Something
open.
else. This is something else though. This is another one. That's why.
Oh, you can close that if you want, but that's not what's causing your 3001 address in use.
3001 is in use because that's what that front end is running on because this 3000, this was running on 3000.
Well, nothing's running in that terminal right now, so it couldn't be using 3001.
Right. But see,
Is it your,
I had this one already running from earlier. So I need to
okay,
close
but that's
it.
on 3000. There's something else that's on 3001.
That's this.
That's on 3002.
Oh, but then I don't know. Is this 3001?
Nope, that's a website. So I would look at all C, maybe Control C out of that one. And then try and start your backend again. No, not that one, your backend.
Where is it?
Maybe it's the portfolio you're referencing.
So, oh, that's
This is
the one that's on 3001.
so I need to control see this one.
There you go. And now if you minimize that one again and go back to your Avengers backend,
Where is it? Oh,
now if you Control C and up enter, you're good to go. So now go to Beekeeper and refresh the entities over on the left. Oh, boo. I thought that was going to work. Go back, click on the database up at the top.
how did I, what am I doing? What,
The-
I hit the wrong button.
This one. Okay, scroll over it here. Let me just, this is going to be quicker because I thought it was going to work. Ah, here you go. You don't have a database name in here, so it doesn't know
I
what
didn't go
database.
back. Okay, yeah, I didn't go back to do that. You're right. Oh,
So now that it knows what database to connect to, you've got your Avengers.
oh my God. Okay, thank you.
Good work. That's
Wait,
that's
wait,
the you're
so then
making
I
the
hit-
right steps.
where my brain hurts. Where do I, so I hit this plus sign when I can start adding them in and filling in the information?
Yep. Larry, go ahead.
Okay, thank God. Okay, how do I, take me off a share? Okay.
Where are we at? What do you need help with?
Trying to populate my database from my stores list.
Okay. Do you want me to get you started on the code for that?
Or talk me through it, one of the two.
Yeah. So we're gonna do the same thing that we did for the create first user account in the blog project. We're gonna say const load store data is equal to an async function before the parentheses after
Yeah.
the, oh yeah. There you go. Async, sync.
I need DB in here.
No, because you have DB already in line 6.
Okay.
So then you're gonna say call it before we forget. So load store data outside on 18. We just have to do it in its own function so we can call async. And then we're going to say const stores equals, and then store, I'm sorry, await. And then store capital S dot find all. I have no idea why the cursor's leaving focused. For once, it's not on me.
Because something keeps asking me if I want like incoming connections to come to my computer.
Oh, okay.
Fine. Okay.
And then you're gonna say if stores dot length equals 0. And then your curly brace, and yeah. And then there you're gonna say for const store.
I need to see, I'm used to Ruby now. CRE
Of stores. Yeah.
SCRES.
And I just noticed there's going to be a conflict because we said stores on 16, but we also called it stores on line 8. So maybe let's rename the stores on 16 to say like stores DB.
Stores DB.
And then also on 17, that's going to be stores DB dot length. 17, not 18. So we're basically saying, hey, on 16 and 17, we're dealing with stores that are in the database. And then if there aren't stores in the database already, we're going to go over the stores that are in line 8.
So it's going to be stores here then?
Yes, yeah, because that's where we actually want to go through each one of the stores that are in the file.
All right, so if the store dot length equals 0 for stores of stores.
And then inside that for loop, you're going to do a capital S store dot create.
Let me stop my server real quick. That's what
Yeah.
it's called. Control C. Store dot create.
And then you're going to use the data from the store on 18.
And then
but make sure that your store model in db.js or in store.js lines up with the model of the object in the store file.
All right, so basically, I would need to pick the different categories, because there's more categories in that store file than it is in my database. So like store.id, comma, store dot, and I don't need any quotes or anything.
Well, you're gonna do something like, let me just request remote control to type that out, be easier. So you're gonna do something like, let me just look at what you have in here. Okay, so I would, it's gonna copy this, go in here. And you're gonna say, hey, all of this, but instead of, well, ID, you're gonna leave blank because you want the database to generate that. But then in here, you would say like store.ext ID.
Okay,
And then, store banner name or whatever.
okay. Thank you.
Yep. And then make sure you have that right, because once you start your server up again, it's going to go create them in the database. And then because they exist in the database, it won't rerun that code.
So don't start my server back until I get this right then.
Correct.
All right, thank you.
And then if you do that and you get it wrong, you could always delete the rows in Beekeeper and then restart your server. Now the database is empty again, so it will rerun this code.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I just put that if length check in there because you don't want every time you restart the server to be dumping data, recreating all of those stores. Christy, go ahead. You're muted.
I'm just talking away. I said, this doesn't look like what I'm used to. And so I'm like, I didn't want to click anything.
You click new table instead of new row. So double click on Avengers over on the left. And now hit the plus in the bottom right.
Thank you.
No problem.
Oh, boy.
I know it may feel like you were dropped out of the nest, but this is why we're doing this.
Very
right?
much so.
This is why we're doing this. Now you can ask the questions, you can practice,
Pop
you can make sure
quiz,
you have the
pop-
understanding.
I'm kind of grateful for it, to be honest. Because I was really stuck on stupid.
So, okay. My question now is, let's see. I created the backend. It's connected and everything.
Okay,
I've added a few stuff in Beekeeper.
cool.
Now all I need is to pull all that in from the front end.
Mm-hmm.
So I would start with what the use state and use effects.
You're
Nope.
gonna do your use effect first. That's gonna have your fetch in it. And once the data comes back, use effect, then you're gonna do a fetch. Then you are gonna use your test endpoint that you already have created on line 8 of your backend. And then once that fetch comes back, you're gonna set it into the state.
Okay. All right. Let me see. I can go ahead and do
And we
that.
do all of that on portfolio.js in the front end if you want to model it off of existing code.
Yeah, I was looking at this from here, but
But this is the individual project page. You want to be in portfolio, which is the one that gets all of them back.
portfolio.
In home, you have the tab open already. Right here.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, sorry, it's the one right up here.
I can't see it.
Zoom's probably in the way. There you go.
There we
Okay.
go.
This is the one that you want to model everything after.
Thank you.
Good work. You're on the right path.
I have a question.
Oh, based on that.
Nicole, go ahead.
I'm having a little bit of trouble with the path.
Okay.
It's saying that's not defined. So I know it has a dot shoes there, but I was just trying that to see if it'll make a difference.
Okay, so shoes is not defined because you're missing the import of it up on line 4. So see how we import projects on line 4? You need to import your shoes.
So it's for coming from here though, like, cause I just made this folder. It's coming from this folder or is it coming from my back end?
No, it's coming from that file that you just created. So go back to your app.js
Okay.
and you're going to say shoes from, and because shoes is in the same folder, that's when you're going to do the dot slash. And then shoes.
Oh, okay. That's why I couldn't find it. All right. Thank you so much.
No problem. It looks like you've got another error there on use state. And that's going to be in your shoes.js. It's going to be a similar problem.
Yeah, I didn't
You just need a capital S in use state.
in this one.
Mhm.
But I was a little bit
No,
confused.
capital S, not capital U.
I was a little bit confused. Just a little bit because I didn't know which one to use off portfolio or for JS, but I understand how it's all flowing.
Yeah.
I just
So one thing you might want to do just to like tamper down on the amount of overwhelmingness is just on line 6, do a return and just return like a div that has the word shoe in it. So just do a return right there. Oh, you can leave that. That's fine. Because you're going to need that in a second. But right underneath it, do a return. Nope, return. And then space and a div. Yep. And then just put the word shoe in it. And now it should be a little, now you've got a whole component and now you can start loading it up.
so, but what is the module? Oh, that's about
You just need export default shoes.
all right. Thank you.
Yep.
Well, I'm gonna come back again just while I'm free. But last time I checked, there was a crash in my back end. No, to fix that.
Yeah, sure. Let's take a look. Okay, scroll up a little bit so we can see why it crashed. Data types is not defined, so that's going to be in shoes.js. And you just need a capital T in that last data type. And while you're at it, you should do a lowercase c, yeah. And save. And scroll down to the bottom and npm run start. Okay, so now it's looks like a connection issue with Postgres. So let's go to db.js. Scroll up a little bit and scroll all the way over to the right. Okay, so you've got shoes with a capital S there. Is it a lowercase in beekeeper? Yeah,
Yeah.
apparently it is. You're good to go.
Oh, but I did it in the capital. Let's see if it makes any difference.
Oh, database names may be enforced as they have to be lowercase.
Oh, should I redo it?
No, it did it for you.
Oh, okay.
And your table is already created, so you're in good shape.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
After we create the table, what should we?
Now
do?
you want to go to your front end and work on the steps to get the data from your table to show up in the front end. So just like we have our projects showing up in the portfolio section of our homepage, you want your Avengers to show up, the names of the Avengers to show up as links on your homepage. Larry, go ahead. Or Christy, do you need more help?
Oh, no, I was saying it's different because we have so many pages. This is just one page, so like how we did it on the portfolio page, is that, so do I
Yeah.
have to make another page or?
Well, no, because it's going to be on your homepage. So your homepage is going to have all the character names listed out, right? Captain Marvel and Captain America and whatever. And then when you click on one of them, it's going to go to a new page and it's going to have all of the data about them.
Seriously?
Mm-hmm.
Mac,
Oh,
Just like when
Yeah.
we listed out all of our projects, and when you clicked on a project, it showed you all the details about the project.
on the fly though? Oh,
You
my-
heard me, Mac? I said, I'm convinced you added that step.
No. If you go
Yeah.
back, I
In
have it
the
in
original
writing.
description.
I said you should have a list homepage that shows all the items in the database that you can click on a single item to get more information about what item you clicked on. It's in writing, 617 in the Zoom chat if you don't believe me. Larry, go ahead.
So I'm getting an error when I start the server, cannot read properties of undefined reading all. So this doesn't like this store dot find all.
Let me see your require import for that.
Just do a separate one or
Go to your db.js for me. You need to
put it right here. Yeah,
put it there, but it's going to yell at you there because you don't have the require for it in this either.
okay,
So you need to add it here and then on line 9, do your require of store, because basically the store model needs to flow through the db.js.
okay, thank you. Hopefully that works. All right, and then online I require. All right, I'll try that. So I do cots like store, require store.
I think it's always so funny when I hit lower hand because I just imagine like being in person and like slapping your hand down.
You've slapped my hand many a time. So I really don't know why you feel bad about it now in cohort 3, just so we're clear.
And what's even more impressive, your cohort was
He didn't say he
remote.
felt bad. He didn't say he felt bad. He just said it felt like slapping a hand down.
All right, so you might be accurate on that. But he should feel bad. You don't slap anyone's hand who asks for help, except mine, because I deserve it.
No, see, that's the thing. I give you the help first, and then I slap your hand.
Still like unrecognized data type attributes. Need to share again, Max.
Go for it.
Share. Desktop 2.
Ew. Okay, unrecognized data type means something's wrong in your model.
Okay, so here's my stores model. Is it that?
Oh, store, can you open your stores.js file so we can look? It doesn't like that EBT enabled in state.
Right, and here it is right here, EBT enabled in state.
Um,
Line 169.
okay, go to your store.js. Is it try instead of bool, try boolean?
Okay, cool. Oh yeah, all right.
And you
Stop the
may, if you restart your server and that doesn't fix it, you may need to drop the table from Beekeeper and then restart it. I'm not sure if that's going to count as a
Stores does not exist.
Go to your Beekeeper. Let's see what Beekeeper looks like.
Okay.
Hey, Max, quick interruption. I apologize. Can you put me and Stephanie in a breakout room, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
This is all I got. Nothing.
Okay, go to hit the little refresh on the entities over here. If you no, sorry, stay in that top database tab, but if you hover over it, there you go. Okay, so it's not creating your stores table for some reason. So let's go. Oh, you know what? Go comment out your create stores code. What's happening is because the table hasn't been created yet, it's trying to insert the stores into a table that hasn't synced to the database. So if you go to your server.js and just comment out load store data on 35. And save, and then scroll to the bottom of your terminal. And okay, now it looks like it should have created a table. So let's go to Beekeeper and refresh the entities. Yeah. Okay, now you've got your stores in there. So now you should be able to comment and create stores. Or load store data, yeah. And save. Okay, now let's see what that error is. Input syntax for type integer Wegmans.
Okay.
So in your store.js model, do you have a store name accidentally as an integer?
That could be it.
Oh, you know what? Hold on. Before you do, go back to your code.
Server.js.
Yeah, you've got store banner name here twice. So the second one should be probably ID.
Yeah. Store banner. We go to stores.js. Store banner. EXTID. Banner. EXT. All right, and then we said Wegmans, then like that. Let's see.
Oh no, that was the you fixed it. I think you fixed it.
All right, let me just, where was I got lost already. That's a name. Let me just make sure that I got that right. Store banner name string. All right, yeah, okay. And let's see. Control npm start.
Yay. All right, let's go to
Yoo-hoo!
Beekeeper.
All right, let's go to Beekeeper. Refresh.
Hey,
Thank you, Max.
awesome work. Christy, go ahead.
Sit down.
Okay, so I just want you to go over this again with me. So I know how to do all of this stuff, but I'm trying to understand what you want. So you want me to go into the homepage and make what I have on the database show up on localhost 3000?
Yes.
So do I have to do like some,
Use effect, use state, fetch.
oh no, I meant like, so it's not any type of like HTML, or do I gotta do like a
Once
contain?
it's in the state, you're gonna have to map over the data in the state and show that up.
Okay, all right, and then, oh my God, okay, I have an error too.
Okay.
Let me see. Where's the-
So again, we do all of that in portfolio, right? We have the data, use effect, fetch, set to state, and map over it all.
Oh. No, here. So,
So you haven't created the file called Avengers yet. You need to go make a new file called Avengers.js and make a component out of it.
I thought I did.
Do you see an Avengers.js?
Oh, I messed up. I put it on the back end. See right here? I did.
Oh, yeah, that's going to cause some problems. Well, hold on. You do need it in the back end because that's the Avenger model for the database. But you also need a component in the front end for the Avenger page.
So I should say Marvel JS.
No. They're two separate folders. So you need an Avenger.js on your front end that's going to be a component.
In here, or down here,
In the source folder.
but not in the home folder.
Correct. Yes.
So I can have the same name.
Yeah, because the front end and back end are completely separate.
And, okay,
That's gonna look just like our project page.
and not the portfolio page.
Correct. The portfolio page is what you're gonna put on your home page.
But I put something on the home page. I can just put it underneath. I just put just this.
Okay, but you can't have a home component in your home component.
Oh, so then it should be something else.
Well, in this project, we don't need a header or a footer either.
Right, but
So
those,
all you need to do is take out home from there, and then in home, all you need to do is have a bullet point list of all the Avengers names showing up.
kind of like how we had all the bullet point lists of the different things that we were trying to accomplish, like improvements and stuff like that.
I have a question after you finish.
Yeah,
Like, so
think about the projects. On our
Right.
homepage, on the portfolio section, it had the weather app and it had Netflix and it had calculator. On
Mhm.
yours, you're gonna have Captain America, Captain Marvel, Thor, whatever. Those are just gonna show up on the homepage. And when
And
you click on one of them, it's going to take you to the Avenger page that's going to have their name and
Summary.
whatever other information about that.
So it's gonna be, wait. So so the name is gonna show up and then you click on the name and then it's gonna take you to the summary, which is gonna be, oh my God, to be about them. Okay.
Yes.
Alright. Okay.
Wayne, go ahead.
Stuck at a spot.
Nicole, I see you next.
So want me choose something. All right.
All of this is looking good.
Except here with the, okay, so cons test brand set brand, but test is not defined. So it should be brand, right?
Mhm.
That's what I was thinking. Okay, 1 second.
Mm.
And brand.
Well, just be careful. You use test in all over down here. So
Yeah.
if you do brand, okay, hold on. You need to be careful with your S's here. So the problem is let me just request remote control. Where is this your backend? See, I think you're confusing yourself because you just called everything test. And it's like, well, you don't have tests. And so that's causing issues. So if I look in your backend, no, wrong backend. Can you pull up your backend for me? Okay, so your server goes to tests and it sends back tests, and then your test has all of that. Okay, so we need this test matches this test.
Right.
This tests that you're sending back needs to match this tests here. Because whatever data is coming back is the data that's getting sent back in here. So
Okay.
this tests now match this tests. But now you're calling it brand, which is fine. But what you're sending back is multiple brands, right? If you look in your database, you've got multiple. So whenever you talk about data that's multiple, you say S. So we're
Okay.
going to say set brands. Now, when you go over all of the brands, you get access to each individual brand, which means now you can get access to each individual brand here. Now, the only other thing you want to check is make sure you've got lowercase. Well, you don't even have a title. You've got a type.
Right.
Oh,
I
sorry.
could swear I've had put type there, but okay.
So all you need to do is change this to type and then this to brand.year.
Right.
And now let's go look in your, hold on, before you do, let me just scroll down here. Yep, everything looks good there. So let's go look in your browser and see what's coming up. So you have test is not defined on 20. So let's go look at that. Test is not defined on 20. That's because we changed it to brand. So looking good. All your data is showing up. Now what you want to do is make it so only the name of the brand shows up. And when you click on it, it shows you all the rest of the data.
Okay.
Right. So think about portfolio. It just showed like the name and the summary of the project. And then when you clicked on it, it showed you the description and year and whatever else.
Right. I need to add a link and so on and so forth to it.
You got it. You were definitely on the right track though, because you've got data flowing full stack now. Now you just need to make it so only some of it shows up.
Okay, well, thank you so much.
Good work. Nicole, go ahead.
I'm struggling with the mapping over. Could you help me with that one?
Yeah, so all you need to do is return inside of that map.
Mhm.
Yep, so return a div. And then inside that div, it's gonna have a curly brace shoes.
1 second. My other buttons aren't working. Try that again. I'll just do it. Ew. Okay.
And then you're gonna do a curly brace in there and you're gonna say shoes. Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
And then hold on, go before you go, you've got a syntax error.
Here.
Yeah, try deleting the curly brace.
I don't know.
Hold on, do parenthesis.
Here.
Yeah, and then curly brace. Save. And now you just need to do, instead of projects.map, you need shoes.map.
So yeah, I wanted to make sure with that I
But
didn't have.
hold on, you have all of your shoes
That's
here,
how-
but when you map over it, you get access to an individual shoe. And then when you want to make the shoe name show up, you don't want to make all the shoes names show up. There you go.
Okay, let me save that. Okay, and then now,
On your, go to your home.js.
1 second, I'm just moving the Zoom.
What the heck?
Now in your home, you want to make all your shoes show up, right? And then you're going to make a separate route for each individual shoe page.
Yes.
Okay, so all you need to do is in your home, in that div, add a component called shoes. So open a new tag. Go over one to the no, inside the div. Yeah, do a new tag in there. So arrow, not curly's arrow.
Like this.
No, like a new, like you were creating a new div, but instead of a div, you're going to create shoes. Yeah. Instead of creating a div, you're going to create a tag called shoes.
So like a UL shoes, a tag shoes. I'm
No,
not sure what you mean by tag.
Instead of div, just put shoes with the same div thing.
Is this for semantics?
Right.
Oh. Sorry.
And now you need to import your shoes from your shoes file.
Okay.
So now,
Problem isn't just one.
oh, you can do a self-closing tag.
Okay, no problem. I didn't do any shoes in the database yet.
Okay, so let's just check here. Yeah, you probably have an error here because you don't have those shoes in yet. So that would be next step.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Christy, go ahead.
Are we working on this again tomorrow?
I'm hoping not to have to.
Okay. Next question. So.
Well, here, let me say this. There are topics that I really want to cover because Nathan is in next week. And you guys are starting interviews and there may be some questions in those interviews that we need to cover. So I will try and limit the first half of class to new material. And then the second half we can open up to either capstone or continuing to work on this.
Okay. And so now, now I have a better idea of
RD.
RD. I have a better understanding of that now because of this. So if you wanted, so let's say that, okay, so let's say that I have 4 different categories. And then I have, so maybe per category, I would want to use the table and then for that category. But could I have, I mean, database, could I have like 4 different databases so that I could,
Normally, you would only have one database per app.
Okay,
You could have multiple tables in that database.
so the table would then be able to display a particular type of information. So like, what? Like how we did on the page, I don't have it up here now, but page where we, where is it? Is it the DB?
So let's say you're making a site and it has all of the developers on that work for the company, and then all of those developers have projects that they've completed. So you would have one database called marketing website, and in the marketing website you would have a table with all of your developers in it, and that may have their first name and last name and email address and description and whatever else. And then you would have a separate table for projects, and the projects have a name and maybe who worked on them and a description. So those are 2 tables or entities in your ERD that have different columns in them.
Okay, but you can, so if you wanted to map, you would have to map over what you wanted to pull, basically. So there's 2 tables, you would map this particular table so that it would display what you want to display, and then you may have to have a second map that maps over the other table to, okay, yeah, that was my question. Okay. Got it. I I talked to Nathan today, so that's gonna be interesting next week too. Get your brains ready.
Max, can you help me get it? Can you help me get it to show up?
Yeah, so go to your beekeeper. Let's start there. Okay, so that looks good. Let's go to your back end. And go to your server.js. And you got your shoes there. Okay, so let's go to your front end. And the shoes component, shoes file, shoes.js. Okay, and now we need to make request remote control. You got to be consistent here. So in your back end, oops.
It's the other way. One more. It's like a space in between.
Oh, okay. You have a capital S here and a capital S here. So you need to match that here.
Oh, okay.
But hold on.
I was confusing myself.
Okay, hold on. We need to take a step back. what do you want to show up on this page? You want all the shoes to show up on this page, right? So we don't want to get the param ID. We want to get all of the shoes on this page. You need another page that's going to show each individual shoe. So here you're going to say shoes data.shoes. And now when we refresh, you get another error. Okay, hold on, let's look. Oh wait. Let's just console log your data and see what's coming back.
I can.
Why is that not?
Maybe we need to refresh the beekeeper, maybe? That little entities circle. I don't know.
Where is your localhost 3000? No, something's wrong at app.js. Go to home, import shoes. If we just comment that out, do we get our home back? Okay, so the problem's got to be somewhere in your shoes. Your shoes.
The params is not lit up.
Yeah, we're not using params in this though, because this is showing all of the shoes, not just one individual shoe. So, oh, you're missing the. I don't think that's the problem.
Maybe I shouldn't have it. Oh, well, already then.
So you missed what was happening was the shoes were not loaded yet. So we needed to tell it was an empty array to say, hey, when you try and show each of the shoes up, start with an empty list, right? Because it was trying to loop over something that it didn't have loaded yet. And then one little thing I want to do to tweak to make it just look a little better. Oops. Do that over there. In here, you're trying to get it to show up as bullet points, right? So the UL is what goes outside of everything. And then the list item is what makes the bullet point show up.
Oh, okay. Got a little.
A little problem there. Now you got your bullet points.
Okay, and now I just got to work on links, which we
Yes.
probably won't have time for.
If you go, you don't need any of this stuff in here, and that's what's making it show up centered and weird. So now it will show up all on the left.
Okay, thank you.
2 minutes left for any questions.
If no one volunteers, you want to help me link my page?
No, I want you to work on that one on your own.
Sorry.
At least take a stab at it, and then if you still need help, you can always schedule a one-on-one.
All right, real quick, everybody hear me out. I'm going to link it in just a moment. Do not leave this room until you click that feedback form, please. We have cohorts after you. My cohort did it every night. We need the feedback to know where everybody's lost, what we can do for the next students, where we need to be. If you guys genuinely don't understand something, it needs to be addressed and figured out. Like, that's end all game all. And I'm not accusing anybody. I've gotten a lot of messages tonight and I appreciate it. That's what I'm here for. But I can't help you guys if you don't fill out that feedback. So I'm going to link that in just a moment. If you leave this room before here, I swear I will make Max teach next week too.
Okay.
Yay! Drop it, Ariel.
Able to put our capstones on GitHub.
That's next week.
I know. She said she would make you teach next week. So I'm saying, well, we're gonna miss something.
Nathan shows up in class on Monday and I go, not now.
Come back later.
Okay, so I linked that, but I'll have you all know I'm the TA until you graduate. You're welcome. So don't mess with me. Get the feedback done because I will remind you daily PM in Slack. I'm not playing. I am not doing this another cohort where I have to remind you all. Okay. I don't expect to see any of you next cohort. Thank you.
And a reminder that the feedback form you can submit anonymously. You do not need to put a name in it. If you do put a name in it, however, I can reach out to you. I can work with you. I can make sure you get a one-on-one. I can send links to you directly if you need additional resources. So I encourage you to put a name in there. The only people that see that feedback form are Jesse and I. Those are the only two people that have access to it. So if you do put your name in it, I can reach out to you and give you those resources. But if you feel like you're struggling and you don't want to be identified, you can submit that form anonymously. You do not need to actually put your name in it.
What was the language that you used with Christy earlier, like abandoning us or something? What was that language? I'm grateful for that because it put the fire to, put the fire.
Oh, I pushed you out of the nest.
Okay.
Right.
Yeeted. Yeeted is the correct term.
Yeet is what we use informally between Ariel and I, because Ariel needed a couple yeets in the second cohort to graduate.
He still yeets me. I don't know what he's talking about. I message him weekly and he goes, out of the nest, time to fly. And then I cry a little bit and then I meet with him next week. He is a good instructor. He gets on everybody's nerves, but he does know what he's doing. So it helps.
Thank
Nicole, go ahead.
Good night, everybody.
Have a good one.
So, because I'm just looking at the link because I know I'm not gonna probably finish it, but you know how you made it a UL and then it had shoe names, and then should I be putting that a link to?
You're going to put the link inside the LI.
And then do an additional shoe and then put the project, the shoe
Yeah,
name.
so
You can do
separate out, the link is going to go around the shoe name, so that when you click on the shoe name, it's going to take you to another page that shows you the shoe description.
Oh, okay.
Right? Think about it. Think about the project. We had the portfolio section and it showed all the projects. And then when you clicked on the project, it showed you more information about that project. You're going to do the same for the shoes. All the shoe names are going to show up on that homepage. But when you click on it, it's going to take you to another page, another route that shows you the only that shoe name and the shoe description.
Thank you.
Yep.
I have a last question.
Go for it, Christy.
Was this full stack?
This is full stack. It's full stack because it's front end on the React, it's back end with Express and Sequelize, and it's database with Postgres. So it is. This is full stack. You're making API call.
So we had a full stack pop quiz today.
Sure, a full stack pop project.
Okay. Good night. My head hurts.
I tried to warn you. I said take good notes. The better notes you take, the better you're going to do for the second half. I did warn you.
I actually had notes. I have some notes from blog. So my notes from blog are what carries me through. But yeah.
Good.
Oh, good night. My head
Is there a
hurts.
redo button? Like if I activate Command Z.
Command Shift Z.
Or just Command Z on the Mac.
No. Redo is Command Shift Z.
Oh, not undo. Yeah, that's my bad. Yep, Max was right. My bad. I'm sorry.
All right, thank you. I'm gonna keep working on this.
Good
I
luck.
hit that button a lot, the undo, not the redo. I rarely ever hit that one. I'm sorry.
Have a good night, everyone.